Hey, folks, welcome to another episode. My name is Kurt Van Ahnen. I'm here with my great co-host, the famous, the infamous Toby Cryns. And we are going to start out this show a little bit of a different pace. It's been a while since Toby and I have actually been on screen together doing this show. And we thought, what if we had some basic questions and we could just start like, hey, you're thinking about starting an agency or you're a freelancer and you want to migrate into the agency space. What are some questions that might come up? And I thought we would dive into that. And Toby, out of our list of questions, what do you think's the one you want to take the lead with?
Why don't we start? I'll ask you, Kurt. Let's say you're starting a new agency here. How do you manage your time between learning, building sites, marketing, and actually running the darn business?
It's almost like a trick question because especially if you're growing from freelancer space to agency space, it is a mind shift. It's different. Like the whole thing is different. The pricing is different. The time is different. What I see happen a lot with agencies starting out is they go from client to client, meaning they get a client, they get fully immersed in the project, they get the project done, and then they're out of work for 6 weeks while they're trying to find the next gig. And I see a lot of these folks in post status and stuff. So if that's you, don't be embarrassed. The trick is you have to time block. Well, I say the trick is that's my secret. I time block. I use a planner and I actually physically write times down, but I'll have a quiet time in the morning that's blocked out. I have, sales and marketing time that's blocked out. And then I only have certain hours of the day that I allow people to book meetings for. So I know that I'm not going to be distracted from important things by peppering meetings into them. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very protective of my time and my schedule. And I think it's only because of that I've been able to scale and find the success I have recently. How about you?
That makes sense. And one thing that's particularly worth calling out probably is this marketing thing, which often gets thrown to the side the minute
Yeah.
you get a contract in. Um, and this happens to very experienced freelancers and even agencies. It happens. Um, so let's say you block off that 2 hours a week or 3 hours a week for marketing activity. um, how do you figure out what to do and who to target without wasting a ton of time on people you're never going to sell to?
I fear that this is going to open up tangents, but I think there's way too many distractions in the marketing space. And so, for instance, as an agency, you may have helped other clients with pay-per-click advertising, PayPal, Google ads, whatever. And maybe you had a budget of six, eight, $10,000 to spend and you saw some results. And so you think to yourself, you go, oh, well, I've got $500 to spend. I'm going to load up some Facebook ads. $500 ain't going to get you nothing in Facebook ads. Like if you want to grow your mail list a little bit, you might get some email subscriptions out of it, but you're not going to sell anything with a $500 ad budget. And I think that's where a lot of people get lost, right? Like they think everything's a one-to-one effort and it's not. And so I would encourage people, especially starting out, to do as much grassroots, self-generated promotional stuff as they can. Just today, and maybe they should write us a check. Web Dev Studios, right? I'm on X today. Web Dev Studios literally has a post today that's like, hey, when you use us, you get the benefit of us, our network. If we can't do the job, we'll refer you to someone else that can help you. Like we are the source of information. Come to us. And that's their post on X. Bam, out, right? That's not, maybe it is a paid ad in some ways. Maybe they are, paying someone to make this content for them, but they're a large agency and they're marketing and they're advertising and they're trying to reach people on a platform that's not a pay-per-click ad. It was just a post. That's key, man. You got to put yourself out there.
Yeah, and I think you nailed the first part of that. Every business book you read about marketing is even pretty much you need it's all the data that fuels those case studies is coming from huge companies.
Yeah.
And so I always think like first thing you need to do is throw out everything you've ever learned about marketing and probably don't even do marketing, do sales. Forget marketing, go sell. And to me, like if I was starting out again, I would encourage anyone starting out, schedule coffees, go find people to have coffee with. Uh,
Yep.
in lieu of anything better to do, that's probably a great thing to do.
It it sounds it sounds like almost too easy, right? But there's a thing in Hutchinson called Startup Hutch. And it's like it's like an incubation center for startups and small businesses. One of the first people I reached out to when I moved across the country was them. It's like, hey, you're dealing with startups and new businesses. Who do you have serving them for digital needs? Right. And they were like, and when they saw what I did, they were like, you're the guy that reached out to us. You're the one that shows up for meetings. You're the one that comes to our networking events. Yeah, we just recommend you now. Right. Like that's powerful. So when every startup in town goes to them to get services, and then their immediate thing is going to be, well, have you set up a web presence yet? You probably need to talk to Kurt. Boom, instantaneous. I joined the Chamber of Commerce. They have a coffee the first Friday of every month with 100 other business owners. They have all their events, their after hours events. I go to all these things and I meet all these people. Are they customers right away? No, but it starts the relationship and gets the referrals. And then I run the WordPress meetup in town, which gives me the, kind of that domain authority of working in the space, right? It's like, well, he's the guy. He teaches everyone else how to do WordPress for free, and he runs an agency. You have to build yourself up to be like, I'm an authority in the space. And you said a couple hours marketing, which I thought was funny because I know that you think sales is more than a couple hours a week. Sales and marketing is what probably at least 25% of your time.
Oh, it's way more for me, but I have a team of developers and
You have a
stuff.
team, yeah.
But when I started, I didn't set any time aside for marketing. I was like, oh crap, I got to deliver this thing. I'm going to build that thing.
Yeah.
And marketing, I was the case study for the scenario you set up initially.
Yeah. I think to successfully launch an agency now, and remember, I'm putting out a course on this subject right now too. So I've been giving this a lot of thought lately. I think you need to have 90 minutes to 2 hours a day that is based on either marketing or sales. And marketing and sales are two completely different things, right? People think they're the same, but they're not. I was making training content just as an easy segue. I was making training content in the backyard, blah, 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 talking to a course. And then I thought, I'm already back here. I already got the camera set up. So I just walked through my backyard and said, hey, if you're a startup in Hutchinson, Kansas, and you need a website, you need to contact us at Manana No Mas. Boom. And record, edit, post, get it out. And it took, I hate to say it took 5 minutes, but it took 5 minutes and gave me a 30-second ad.
So let's say you get the coffee, the coffee introduces you to somebody who might want to hire you. You have a meeting. How do you price your services if you've barely sold any of these things before?
I think pricing is one of the hardest things on the planet. And by the way, whatever you're feeling right now is your truth, right? Like that's everyone's, I'm living my truth. I spoke to a guy that I met through Post Status, and he said, oh, I don't even touch a project if it's less than $37,000. And I thought to myself, that's crazy talk, because I'll do stuff cheaper than that all the time. But then I started to wonder, am I undervaluing myself? If you're still doing websites for $500, you need to get out of that market. Definitely. But if you haven't really centered yourself or, have that cornerstone of I am the expert in the space, in this area, or in this, dealing with that customer, then yeah, you're probably not in the $37,000 range either. So it's very difficult. What I would say is push the limits all the time. Whatever you're charging, probably you could have charged more.
Yeah. And something you said struck me is something I hear often that I think is wrong. And this isn't a critic because I know you understand the nuances, but when you say like basically like, oh, I'm in the $500 website market, blah blah blah, like, and this from experience, you might actually be playing in the $10,000 market, but you're only charging 500. And this is the pricing thing that people, it's really hard to wrap your head around.
The thing that I encourage even single person agencies. By the way, I really believe that there are such things as single person agencies, right? So don't say I'm a freelancer if you're really doing agency level work. But the thing is you have to price the job as if you had the team. So if you sold the job and you had someone on your team do it and you had to pay them a salary or an hourly wage or a contract price or whatever to do it, you know that you have to pay them and mark it up enough for yourself that you can, still run the meetings and still be the project manager and still compensate yourself for that work. And I think what a lot of people do is they price the job and go, well, I want to be competitive, so I could really do it for this much. And then they end up, haggling or negotiating and getting down to that bottom dollar. And we should never be racing to the bottom. We should always be trying to find a way to climb up. And so think in terms of, if I had a team to pay, if I had to hire someone to do the whole job and all I did was project manage it and do the customer meetings, I would have to charge at least twice as much, because I have to compensate the people doing the work and I have to compensate myself to oversee it.
Yeah, and this is a really tricky thing, but, like, I actually don't even think of it that way. I just go, What's the maximum I think I can get out of this contract?" Um,
This looks like $18,000.
yeah, I'm looking at the people across the Zoom call or at the coffee, I'm going and I'm listening, and I'm like, "Okay, who might they be comparing me to when they go out there to get another bid?" Because if they're going to a big agency, my rates just went up quite a bit. But if I know maybe they say they're going to talk to such and such freelancer, then I need to, like, figure that out and navigate that.
I think you and I are very different in this space. And this is interesting. It could be a good conversation. I use project management software, and whether I'm doing the work myself or I have it farmed out to someone else, I still track the actual time it takes to do all of these things. Even if it's just set up the hosting account, move the URL from the registrar to the host, all that stuff is tracked for each job that we do, actual time. And so when I meet with a client, in my head, when we're doing the needs assessment, I'm going, okay, well, that's an hour, that's 2 hours, that's 4 hours, that's 7 hours, and so in my mind, I'm keeping this tick list of what I think it's going to be. So I take that time and then I generally add 30% to that, right? Because there's always going to be something that gets in the way of something. Um, and then I kind of multiply it by my, you know, goal agency rate. And then I come up, with a round number that I can put into the proposal. And to me, I've learned through my experience in the automotive business, the number's the number. So if I do the math, if I do the needs assessment and I have a good guesstimate to the actual hours and then the overage that I'm going to allot for, and then multiply that by that agency rate, the number's the number. Like that becomes the number for me. And then it doesn't matter. If they say yes, great. If they say no, I couldn't afford to do the job cheaper anyway.
Mhm. So, there's this related question. You don't have a huge portfolio. You're a new person, not you, Kurt, but let's say you, listener, are out there at a meeting and you're pitching your service and they go, "Who have you worked with?" And you're like, "Nobody," or "This barber shop down the street." How do you generate trust if you don't have a huge portfolio?
This is another one of those trick questions, isn't it, Toby? Um, if you have a hosting account somewhere, which you should, right? We're assuming that we're all in the space, we're professionals. Some of that marketing time that I set aside is actually for making sample product. And so if someone were to say, show me an example of, of some big name that you've worked with. Luckily for me, I've got a couple of big names in my back pocket, right? So I can throw those out there, but I can't show them the products anyway. Like I can't give them access to the e-learning platform I made for Ducati. It's proprietary information for Ducati, right? So even if I could show them an actual website that's still in existence, I can't show it to them anyway. Like it'd be a breach of ethics. And so what I'm very, very good at is I've got, 15 sample websites in my server that are literally like, I'll say, oh, well, I did some work for Ducati. I also did some work for Suzuki and I did some work for BRP. If you'd like to see an example of the types of projects I've worked on for them, here's a sample site that shows, an e-learning website with a built-in CRM tool. And then
Yeah.
they go, "Oh, that makes sense."
I also think, like, if you're answering that question, you got an uphill battle. If people in
Yeah.
my experience, it's very rare that someone asks me for a portfolio piece, but or when they ask, I go, "Let's talk about something else because who cares?" Like,
Yeah,
um
and well, what's really interesting, if you're a professional and you're providing agency level work, you're doing a needs assessment, and that needs assessment is always unique. Like, even if it seems like, oh, that's a cookie cutter job, that's coming. I said yes. Perfect example. I said yes last year to what I thought was a cookie cutter job, and now a year later, they're still asking for special features.
Mhm.
Um, Nothing is cookie cutter. Nothing is identical as the other thing. Even like if you're working in the starter template world, if you're like, oh, hey, I just have Astra packages and I just put the starter templates in, they can change the text and the images, right? Over time, those projects always turn into a special request or an ad by somebody. So it always morphs. There's never a case where you're going to say, oh, this is cookie cutter and this is exactly how this is going to go for you.
Yeah, I also think, something you said, like, if you're talking technology at a sales conversation, you're losing.
You're
Like
losing. It's um I used to. I
Mhm.
used to. I
Yeah.
used to go, "Oh, I'm gonna build this in WordPress. I'm gonna put it on this host. We're
Mhm.
this much memory. We're gonna," and you could just watch them gloss over and act like they're paying attention, but they don't even know. What they really want to hear is, "I'm gonna be able to build this website quickly. I'll have it up in 45 days or less, and our goal is to get traffic to your product, get eyes to your website." And this is, and we do that. I don't even tell them how we do it, and we do that. And then just go, "Oh, that sounds great."
Yeah, I also think, around the trust thing, because really that's what this is about. Like, the art of sales is the art of trust, like building trust, and
Yeah.
um, we all know ways to build trust. But I do think, first of all, like, if, just on the trust side, you got to scrub your social media. You're now a business. I'm sorry, whatever that means. Um, uh, and I think also, I don't know, like I had received an email the other day. And it was somebody who was asking. It was like they were like, "Hey, I see you do SEO. Do you have any proof?" Effectively, that's what they were asking, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Yes, I do." And I sent them like all my Google reviews and all my LinkedIn, and then I have like some presentations I've done, and they still weren't impressed. And that left an impression on me. This was just a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, for this person, all that proof was not enough. Now, I didn't meet them. I wasn't referred,
Yeah.
but one lesson maybe for the beginning person, you can't win them all. Maybe that's the lesson there. like,
Nope.
um,
And there's that famous quote by somebody, and I forgot his name again because I am like that, but it says, all things being equal, people do business with people they know, like, and trust, right? And
mhm.
so it's not just going to shake down to the spreadsheet or the sample of the work that you sent or the presentation. It's going to be a combination of things. And I know that you are really big on timely responses. Like if someone calls, you're calling them back, and you'll pick up
Mhm.
a phone and actually speak to somebody instead of text them to death. And so there's a lot of ways that you can win the client over. It doesn't have to be on being the most experienced person in the room. It could be the being willing to give the right service.
Yeah. In fact, just a minute ago, I got a call from a client who's a really good client. They want me to meet in person, and I haven't met in person for 7 years, but
Mm.
they're, within an hour drive, and they're one of our good clients, and I'm like, I'm probably gonna do it. Like, like,
Yeah,
um,
but
this
I,
is
I just picture you sitting there going, "Do I really want to do this?"
oh, I really don't want to. There's no question, but it's like, will I do it?
So that packs in an interesting perspective. As you know, I have different verticals in my business, and some of my
Mhm.
business is centered around consulting and training. And so I do virtual training sessions all the time. And then every now and then, one of these business owners will be like, "I really just need you to come by and work with my people one on one." And I go, I can totally do that for you. I understand why you want that. I understand why you think that's the answer, right? But it's $2,500 a day plus travel expenses.
Mhm.
It's a premium, and some people cough it up. So, In fact, I have other professionals in the space that tell me, dude, you're too cheap. It should be $5,000 a day.
Oh
And,
yeah, dude.
and I'm like, oh, part of me feels
Yeah,
guilty. Like, how would I charge someone $5,000 for a day of my advice?
this is
But
no joke.
if that
Yeah.
advice makes them $100,000 this year, it was worth $5,000 to do it.
Uh-huh. I've experienced that too. There was a training, it was about 2 hours away, and I didn't wanna go. So I was like, "Here's the remote training price, and here's the in-person." I think it was like 3x the price. They're like,
Yeah,
"We'll do the in-person." I was like, "Alright."
whatever. You're a little more cheerful to hop in the car.
Yeah, exactly. That was my pricing. I'm like, "What would get me excited to jump in the car?" And that did it.
Yeah. I really struggle with, and this is totally off the cuff, people that went remote during the pandemic and then said, okay, well, now we're going to have this back to office policy. I'm like, man, you would have to give me another $20,000 a year
Yep.
to get me to get in the car every day. I used to live in Southern California, and it would take 45 minutes minimum to go 26 miles to the office. And to think about getting back in the cage and doing that every day,
Right.
you would have to come off some serious green to get me to do that.
Yeah. Let me ask you, someone you're talking to, let's say you listener, you're a beginner agency owner, maybe you're freelancing for the, first year or something. Um, you give some advice to a client. Maybe maybe they're a client, but maybe they're not a client. Maybe you're in the sales process, but they're pushing back on your advice. Um, well, maybe the question is, what have I done wrong? Is a what could I have fixed earlier to avoid that situation?
That's hard because you do go through that. I recently just had somebody that, for an example, in their organization, they wanted to do a digital currency inside this like closed loop organization. I didn't see the sense of it. Um, and I voiced it out loud, and it was on a board of directors kind of meeting. And so then three other guys on the board were like, yeah, I don't get it either. And I was like, uh-oh, I've splashed some gasoline on this fire. And now here we are 3 months later, and we're not meeting as a board anymore.
Mhm.
Because the guy that runs that organization was so attached to that idea. I feel um, things just started to fall apart after that assertion. So you got to be willing to, you have to be ethical. You have to stay true to yourself. And sometimes you're going to lose. Sometimes you're just going to lose. Um, but I would rather lose and know that I did the right thing than do the wrong thing and somehow make me think that that was a win. Um, and you got to pick your battles. Like if it's the difference between, because all customers, it would be better if the logo was bigger. No, it wouldn't be better if the logo was bigger. I want the logo bigger. Okay, you know what? Let's do this. Let me duplicate the page and make the logo bigger so you can see how ridiculous it looks, and then we'll go back to the old way.
Okay, this is advice my dad gave me, and I've followed it quite a bit over the years. The idea, because I would go to him complaining, this guest customer wants me to do this. Maybe it's make the logo bigger, and he's like, "So, just say yes, sir, and do it." Like, yeah,
Yeah,
you're probably
very
right.
good.
So I do a ton of that, just for the record. Like, unless if it's something like that's not going to break the bigger picture, like I say yes to all sorts. Like we have a client right now for SEO, and we're building all the pages, and they're like, we need this image right here on the page. I'm like, it doesn't really fit there, but okay, yes, sir, we'll put it there. And like, we did it. It's fine. It'll look a little weird, but the SEO is nailed.
When I first started, I would almost let the customer design things. Like, and I'm not a designer. I was an implementer, really. And so I was like, yeah, I can make your website. I need your content. And they would give me some content, and then it was never enough. And so we'd, filter in this other stuff around it. And then we'd do a website review, and they were like, the logo's got to be bigger. This text needs to be bigger. This needs to be brighter. This needs to have more pop. This needs more sizzle, and I was just like, okay, take all their notes. And then I would build a hideous website, like just hideous. And I'd show it to them. They go, this is exactly what I wanted. And I'm like, you're happy. And they go, this is exactly what I want. I go, great. Here you go. And some people because that question we had earlier, I want to see a portfolio of what you've done. Well, yeah, here's some of my customer websites. And they go, oh my God, this is hideous. I go, well, that website is built specifically the way the customer requested it. And this is a demonstration that we will do what you ask. And I got
That's
jobs from that.
fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah, got jobs from that. They're like, well, at least this guy listens.
Yeah. There's a getting back to the original question, I was thinking like, because I oftentimes think like when I get a question like that that's really uncomfortable, like maybe I messed up something earlier, and there's this idea that that you kind of touched on, like you need to, before you get into certain topics, you need to like have the money in hand. Maybe that's the thing. And to me, one of the topics that you need money before you talk about is technology. And so whether you're getting paid for, maybe you have a section for discovery, whatever it is, like um, I would not. So like, let's say I had got into I failed at this just a few weeks ago. Like I was having a conversation with somebody who wanted something built in WordPress. I was like, great, I can do that. And he wanted it built in Cadence blocks, and I was like, we don't do Cadence, we do Beaver Builder. And that was a deal breaker for him. And like, I don't know, maybe I don't really care if it's Cadence, like all that much, but like if I had like postponed my opinion until later, maybe I'd be working on the project right now. Like,
But it's also very difficult from a technology standpoint to always be the expert in everything. You can't be the expert in everything. And so if you really feel that you guys are experts in Beaver Builder, then you'll find those clients. They'll rise to the top for you, and you'll be able to serve them extremely well with the product that you're really great at. Oddly enough, one of the platforms I build in is Cadence. So if I have a customer that's going to, manage the site themselves, or they want to do stuff themselves after we're out of the picture, kind of, I say, oh, well, let's just build it in Cadence, because I don't want to have to teach my client how to use a page builder or risk them like making a change in a website, saving the page and breaking the formatting, right? Like
oh yeah,
Elementor is notorious for that. You build someone an Elementor site, and then they sign in, they make a change in Gutenberg and hit save, and the whole
right.
page unformats, right? And then they call you, the website's broke, your hosting sucks. And you're going, no, you suck.
Uh-huh.
Stop making changes.
That brings up an interesting point. This is a statement. You can react to it. You're a new agency, a new freelancer. Every contract you send to somebody to sign needs to have some recurring revenue built into it, whether it's hosting, maintenance, I don't know, security. Think of some other ideas.
Yeah. So my hosting contracts are hosting and maintenance. And so I have a guy on my team that goes in periodically, updates all the WordPress cores and updates all the plugins and make sure that the sites, still look the same, at least from the homepage perspective, right? Like, did we update a plugin and did it break something? And so we do that, and it's amazing how much customers like that. It just takes it off their plate, because if we're in the WordPress space and we're competing with Wix and Squarespace and Webflow and these other things, the customer's not having to deal with updates and tools and plugins. And so if we just make that part of the hosting, that gives us that, to your point, that recurring extra bit of revenue, where even when it's our slow months, like for us, we're really slow in August. And so when we have that slow month, we still have, a minimum revenue that's going to come in.
The thing too about that, I have this hunch that um, when you have a recurring billing happening at any rate, the customer's seeing that every month on their bill, you might be the next person they call when they have something coming up. But if you're not in there, that's marketing to me. These are
Yeah.
marketing dollars that they're paying you to market to them. Like they're seeing your name every month. It hurts a little bit every month. Like
Yeah. You're top
you're
of
more
mind.
likely to get called when they need something.
Yeah. You're
Even
top
if
of
the
mind.
question is this included? I love that question.
Yeah. I'm glad you asked. It is not.
Yeah. Oftentimes it is. I don't know. Maybe it is, but yeah, like I want to be. That's marketing dollars. Like even if even if sometimes I feel like this month we gave too much to this customer, but they're
Yeah.
on a recurring contract. I'm like, that's marketing dollars.
Yeah.
Like, we just invested. Like,
I'm in the same boat with that. I have one client that's gone through some life change, And I just know that she's not swimming in money, and she had some things come up that she wanted to change in the website, and I was like, you know what, you host with us. This is outside the scope, of our contract, but this isn't a big list either. So let me just knock this out for you, this time, and get you handled. And then that goes so far, especially when people are in a spot, because when she's not in the spot, when her sales are up and things are good and the revenue's flowing, yeah, we're going to hit her up and go, oh, this would be a great time for you to update this or change that or add this new feature. And then that's going to, be another quote to sell.
Also, like, I think of that for me, like, I've had a couple of instances of that, but it hasn't led to more business for me. But when I think of like the impact I'm having on people in the world, like those couple of times I can point to that are similar to that, like that's really important to me. Like that's kind of why we're here, in my opinion. Like,
Well, I think it's great to hear that. And I feel the same way, but I don't think we're a majority, just being honest. And I think that there's a reason why certain agency people do kind of rise to the top. I've met a few of the owners of the larger agencies, and we've had discussions one on one. And when I've met with them, they have another blog or a Substack or something, and it's always about adding value to a broader audience or doing something in a way to pay it forward. And the people that I see struggle, it's like they're always locked in that struggle and trying to find the what's in it for me angle. And they think that they can't be generous. They think that they can't find a way to pay it forward because they're still in that growth struggle. But to our point here, I don't think they're going to break out of that until they find a way to pay it forward and be someone that other people look to as being generous.
yeah, and one kind of offshoot of that, and we've talked about it on this podcast before. It's like niche down or not. Sometimes you can be generous by taking on a high paying project that
Yeah.
really helps someone. Maybe you have to learn. Maybe it's outside of your wheelhouse, but it's something you want to learn. Maybe I don't know. Like sometimes I think like some of the people that, my opinion, get it wrong. It's like when they're not looking at the human there, because sometimes you can go to someone and be like, I don't really know how to do this, but I think I can do it. Um, Here's what it'll cost. Can I like get some? Can we, if I can tell you yes in a week that I can do it, will you sign this contract or whatever?
Yeah.
Um, that can be a really boon for people who are paying you to learn it and everything. Like I don't know. I just
Well, this is like a combination of two questions, right? That we've hit. So one is, should I niche down right away or try a bit of everything to see what's going to stick? And what happens when someone asks for something you don't know how to build it, and you don't want to look like you don't know what you're doing? The first thing, just what you said, I don't care if people think I know what I'm doing or not. Like in my niche, I'm the expert. Like I'm an e-learning expert. I'm a community site expert, right? Like I understand how to build these sites to deal with large memberships and recurring revenue and set up these subscription plans. And so I get it. And I can do those very quickly and very efficiently, which makes, so for me, that's where that margin comes from, right? But to your point, someone asks for something and goes, oh, well, how do I make custom reporting happen in this way, that way, the other way, and an automatic PDF? Man, I think the best thing you can do is go, wow, that's a great question. You're the first person to ever really pose that to me, but I can see the use case for it. Let me explore some options and I'll come back to you with a proposal. And if you can trust us with this might be a way for us to expand our business too.
yeah,
And then it
you know
just kind of becomes almost like a partnership, right? Like then
yeah,
now they're in it now too. They're like, oh, that's really cool.
right. I think too, like I have this product I sell that I think we've talked about. It's the most valuable product I sell, but very few people take me up. We meet in person and we're going to build your site. And I met with someone a week ago and it was our first meeting. And we're going to have probably 6 or 7 of these. Um, and I- it was clear just from the start of the conversation, I was like, this is really complex what you're describing to me. And if you're getting started too, this is one way to frame it up too. Like, um, basically I told him like we're going to do all this together in person, and that framework can control the scope considerably.
Yeah.
um so like there are lots of ways to think about this, like what and the question that you posed was like, oh, they're asking for something I've never built before.
Yeah.
There's a company in town here that's just brilliant. It's this guy who he goes around, he goes, I'm building apps with AI, but I don't know how to code. I have coders that I can contract with, and you'll pay their salaries and all that. Basically, got a team of coders that he has access to. But he goes out, he's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just writing prompts like you are, but I have some experience with prompts that you probably don't have. And then when we get there, we're going to hand it to a coder to do the final work, and it'll, I really like that. Like, that approach, just like, I don't know what I'm doing. You don't know what you're doing either. Let's figure it out. Like,
Yeah. There's there's a real service in coming alongside people and going through a journey with them. I am not someone that enjoys that part. Like, I really like to have more of my ducks in a row before I start selling my time and my products. But there's a real market for that, and I've seen that in our space. Um, I know people that like, hey, let's just jump on a shared Zoom call and we'll knock this thing out together. We'll figure it out together, and they're getting paid $150, an hour to figure it out together. And the customer's totally invested and thinks it's a great value. I struggle with that a little bit. I'm more like, tell me the problem. I'll go resource the solution and I'll let you know what we find. And it's probably still going to cost the same money. So maybe it's fun to come alongside people and go on the journey together. I just it's not my style.
yeah. And you know what's awesome about this? Like, you shouldn't really listen to anybody who tells you what to do with your business. Because what Kurt is describing here is like, I do it this way, you do it that way. Who cares?
Yeah,
Like,
potatoes,
and that's
potatoes.
totally true. Like, I don't think if you go ask around town, and especially like very small WordPress agencies or agencies of any sort, they do everything differently than you would do them. From sales, marketing, the tech stack, the delivery, how they package up stuff, how they do recurring stuff. Everybody's different. And
Yeah,
by the way, every one of them, if you pull back the curtains, a complete mess, including this curtain here. Kurt doesn't have a curtain, so it's all out on display there.
it's
So,
all on display. It's all on display. But it's a plain wall now. I used to have that bookshelf behind me with the cowboy hats and stuff. I might go back to that.
yeah. So let me ask you, let's say you have a few clients now. Uh, you started it 2 years ago. You're like, oh, I got a lot of work to do. You got cash flow problems now. Maybe you have a contractor working on one of the things. How do you handle this? So, like, do you try to knock? So one tack would be like, we're just going to pump these out as fast as we can, so we can move on. And that's one strategy. Or I'm going to take my time and build the business that way.
So if you think about like multi-level marketing schemes, not scams. I didn't mean to say scams and insult people. But if you think about multi-level marketing schemes, they talk about, do you want to go wide or do you want to go deep, right? And so width is like stability and deep is revenue. And so do I want to build a lot of sites fast, right? And feel more secure because I have more clients? I'm spreading the liability out over multiple clients, or do I want to go deep with a few clients and do high end work with higher margins? That is a trick question. My personal attack is I have some jobs I love, like enterprise level e-learning jobs, but I only need one or two of those a year to really keep the float going. And then I have a lot of startup jobs that come to kind of fill in the spaces, right? So if I think about tiling a floor, those e-learning jobs are the 12 by 12 tile. And then the smaller, startup jobs are like the grout that holds the tile in place.
hmm
That's kind of the way I think about that. What I caution people with, and Toby, you might feel the same way, or you might feel completely different. I don't know. I find that when I do bargain work, there's a difference between lower revenue and bargain. Like if I'm delivering $5,000 value websites for $1,500, that's bargain, right? People that are shopping in the bargain mindset, for some reason, they have the most complaints, the strictest guidelines, the strictest calendars, and they never pay on time. Like it's always a struggle to come up with financing. Whereas if it's a $5,000 valued site and you sold it for $5,000, chances are they're going to pay you on time. They're going to show up for their meetings on time. They're going to have an agenda. You're going to be able to meet the scope of work and have the job done, get paid. And that's, Bob's your uncle. It's done. Um, I have found every single time I try to be nice and hook somebody up with what I consider a discount or a great rate, it blows up in my face and becomes a nightmare.
Yeah. You know what's might be an interesting strategy for someone who's getting started with pricing? Go unreasonably high for you on price
Yeah.
and listen to them, listen to their reaction. Because you might find you're closer than you thought. You could always come down.
Yeah.
And by the way, I always see that when I deliver that number, that's just the starting point for another conversation. Like
Yep. It
whatever that
is.
maybe they say yes and we move on, or maybe they're like, I don't know, we got to get some more bids. I'm like, oh, tell me more about these new bids you want. What are you hoping to get out of them? Lower
Yeah.
price or something else, you know?
Yeah. And if budget's the issue, what elements of the project were you willing to strike off the list to help lower the budget?
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden they go, oh, wait a minute. So part of what we asked for is causing this. Well, yeah, if you added a bunch of complexity in there, a bunch of automations and stuff. Um, I know that some people love working like, oh, I just Zapier this thing up, or I just WP Fusion this thing up. For me, setting all that stuff up, that even though I know how to do it, it is taxing intellectually. That is a premium service in my mind. And
Hmm.
so I'm not doing that stuff for $50 or for $100 I'm going to get compensated. And
Yeah.
so if someone goes, oh, well, we're going to have to shop that around. I'll just say, oh, well, what, what part of the needs assessment were you willing to strike off the list then so we could be more competitive on price?
Hmm.
And that seems to really center or concrete the conversation better.
Yeah, and I think, like, I'm always aiming for a conversation and not I never wanna send something where people are like, "Ugh, like, I'm out of here," you know, like, even if they think that, I want to engage them more, so I don't know, that's maybe the lesson part of that lesson is you gotta be bold if you're a business owner. I mean, you don't gotta be, I guess that's just my advice. Be bold in those conversations,
Yeah.
ask you know, the worst you can do is it's hard to offend somebody by asking a follow-up question about hard numbers that are in front of them or anything that's in a document or something they said. I don't think you can really offend anyone by asking a follow-up about that. And
It's always surprising when you find out what other people are doing. This is why there's so much value in networking within our space or being part of the community. I got invited as a sales engineer, as the platform expert in a meeting that a larger agency was having with a large client. Okay, so I'm trying to build this up the right way. So I'm just going to be on a Zoom call. I'm just there to answer a few questions, about a platform as the expert, and that's it. Now, my compensation was very minimal for this Zoom call. I was not making a ton of money. I was actually almost more like a favor. And so I jump on this call. I learned throughout the call that I wasn't just the expert in the platform. I seemed to be the expert overall for like the whole thing. All these questions kept coming up from the customer. And I kept looking around the Zoom room and I was like, do you guys want me to answer that too? And they were like, oh, yeah, Kurt, if you could just take the lead on that. I'm like, okay, sure. I found out after the fact that that was a needs assessment coaching consulting call that earned that agency $10,000.
mhm,
I did not get $10,000, but what I did get was an education that my level of experience, my level of expertise has a value if I find the right people to sell it to.
yeah. Similarly, I was on a call. Now this is similar. Well, this is about you're on a call. It's how to close a deal. I always look to close a deal. I don't know what the deal is when I go in
ABC,
there.
baby, always be closing.
Exactly.
Sell me this
And
pen.
so I've been going to, I'm trying to help a very established old company in town take the next step in the age of AI. And we don't know what I don't know what that is. And I've been upfront, like, I don't know what that is, but I kind of like I go to the AI meetups. So I don't know, maybe I'm the best person you can find. If you can find someone else, great. But anyway, I'm on these calls and realized pretty quickly they needed, well, their first hire out of these calls is going to be a social media person. Um, and I don't know social media and I didn't pitch it, but I was like, if I was somebody who knew social media, but I was pitching WordPress, I would have sold my social media service that I haven't mapped out yet. Like, be like, if I loved doing social media, I would have pitched it on that call, like, but I don't love it, so I didn't pitch it. But
Yeah.
if you're listening, there are opportunities abound. But you gotta have the coffee. You gotta be in the call, to know the opportunities.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I don't think, there's a lot of probably a lot of people today that would say it's really hard to get on those calls. I actually don't think it is very hard. I mean, sure,
No.
you're going to be locked out of a lot of meetings, but most people I know, at least they'll say in the Minneapolis tech community, would bring pretty much anyone on a call. Like if even if you just wanted to be there to listen, hey, I'm curious. Can I just like listen in the background? Like people are like, I don't know, I know they're like, despite whatever you might think, I would challenge that assumption. If you're currently like, no, Toby, that's not true. And I've heard hugely famous people say this, and maybe it depends on the scale. Like I can't get a meeting with the owner of McDonald's, but I can get a meeting with someone of someone who's just entering the field could easily get a meeting with me. We'll say that. Like,
Yeah.
and anybody at my level, sure, they would almost all gladly meet with somebody who's up and coming and learning and curious.
Well, just interesting. Everybody went to WordCamp and I didn't. And then I was on post status and someone else didn't, or it was on X. And someone said, oh, I'm having a fear of missing out from WordCamp. And I said, well, we should just hop on a Zoom together and get to know each other. Boom. 2 days later, we're on a Zoom call for an hour and a half getting to know each other. Fantastic individual, by the way, and ended up being a guest on my podcast after that. And it's just the matter of asking, like to your point, just ask, it's like making a connection on LinkedIn, right? You're going to ask a bunch of people to be a connection on LinkedIn, and a certain percentage is going to say yes. You don't get upset and can't sleep at night because some people didn't accept the invitation. You just take the bonuses you get and move forward.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. You got to keep sticking your neck out there. The cutter's coming, but you know what? It's not a deadly knife. It's going to sting. It'll sting.
It's not a deadly knife.
It's a very dull, stinging knife that's going to aim for your neck, and it'll ding a little bit.
Well, this is a good news, bad news thing. I'm looking at the clock. I want to make sure we value people's time, right? So the good news is we have a few questions, these basic questions left over that we can launch into in our next episode of Whose WordPress Agency Is This Anyway? But for now, I think we're going to start to wrap this up. So Toby, let people know where they can find you.
You can find me on LinkedIn, Toby Cryns, that's Cryns. You can also go to themightymo.com for any of your WordPress and SEO needs.
Perfect. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm the only Kurt Von Ahnen on LinkedIn. Makes me easy to find. And then Mañana No Mas is my agency. So if you want to connect for business, it's Mañana No Mas on X, on Facebook, and mañananomas.com. Other than that, folks, we have been getting some really good shares and likes and follows and things like that, and good feedback to Matt and the team at WP Minute. We appreciate all that, but if you haven't done that yet, we would love it if you would. So like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff so we can continue to do what we do. And with that, we're going to say goodbye. Have an awesome day.